Hi, I'm Connor Fowler.
And I'm Matt Smith.
Today on Apocalypse Duds, we are joined by Benji Loveless, photographer, artist, kink model, actor, voiceover actor, and I'm sure much more. Welcome, Benji. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Benji, just as a quick intro, what's your fit that you're wearing look like today?
Okay, so today I am wearing, I'm wearing a mostly pink, like a medium bright pink short haul. Do you know what a short haul is?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Let our audience know.
A short haul is a short overall, often sometimes called a jumper, with like those straps with the pinafore, like, fastening on it. So it's a short overall. It's pink. It has little bunny heads on it, which are in the kawaii style. Do you familiar with kawaii?
Okay.
Kawaii
Yeah.
fashion?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Yeah, sort of like in that vein. And then it has darker pink bows, stars, and crescent moons. So it's sort of that pattern all throughout. And then I'm wearing a light pink shirt under that, short sleeve with crew neck with very puffy sleeves on it. Then, so it was a little warm today. I have some sweatbands. I have one lavender wristband on and one yellow wristband on. The other with my jewelry, my bracelets that I made with beads from the Dollar Tree in a similar sort of soft pastel vein. Today's beret was my dark, medium purple beret. Today's beret. I have a lot of berets, so that was today's beret. Brought to you by me. It's and then down to socks is a thin cotton sock with a double frill at the top. So it's sort of like a little icing frill.
Classy.
And then it's a pair of canvas Keds. They are the Ked triple kick because the sole is triple thick. Oh, I like
it. All right.
The triple kick. The sole is triple thick and it has a little bit of a white fringe on it. And that's the basic setup today.
That sounds like a very sort of a regular warm weather type of outfit.
It is. It's a little bit warm because you do have this extra layer over your chest, but I can hack it up to about the mid 90s. That's about where it's good to. And
yeah, I wear a jacket.
Where we are today, I think like 94.
Oh yeah, I think probably in Georgia right now it's high 80s with lots of humidity. Not fun, especially as I love wearing jackets. So,
I love jacket. That's sort of how I would describe it before, is jacket weather. I was always looking forward to jacket weather.
Right.
So
I wear one all the time, and people always ask, "Oh, you don't get hot?" And I'm like, "I'm going to be hot as shit no matter what I'm wearing. So at least this keeps the sun off."
Exactly. So I'm a redhead, or used to be.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I did not know that. I can usually spot another redhead, but I did not know that.
You didn't notice the freckles? Come on.
No, I noticed the freckles, but I thought you were blonde.
You thought I was blonde?
Yeah, I know, which is an insult. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How are you going to insult Benji, dude? Come on.
It's pretty hard to offend me. But I'm a redhead, so I burn and sweat. That's what I do in this weather. So protection's good, but I've gotten better with the sunblock, and I got to show these legs off. So it's,
of course,
I don't really.
Yeah.
So Benji, speaking of climate, are you local? Where are you from?
Yes, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Excuse me. That's in Baltimore in Maryland. No, I'm from a neighborhood called Overlea, is where I grew up in, which is like the northeast corner of the city. And it straddles the city-county line. I grew up there in the late 70s, early 80s. So I don't know if there's two movies that sort of describe the vibe. You're familiar with the movie Gummo at all?
Yes.
So Gummo, and then there's another movie from the mid 80s called The River's Edge, which is
who was in
like
that
heavy metal. It was Crispin Glover was the big deal in it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it sounded vaguely familiar, but
So
couldn't place it.
heavy metal grits looking for shit to do. That's kind of was the vibe of things. So yeah, or have you seen like Heavy Metal Parking Lot ever? That little document.
That, of course, I have
Right,
seen.
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
think that's a
So
great film.
that's the vibe of when and where I grew up.
Okay.
So, were you involved in the metal scene at all?
Only as much as that's what was, that was the language kids were talking in.
Mhm.
It was, and kids would have their like maybe their metal shirts if they could afford one, and I had my hand me down brothers Judas Priest T-shirt and something like that. So I was into it, and only from the sense that that's what the other kids were into, and I was another kid. I wasn't ever like deeply into metal or anything. It was just like that's what the atmosphere was, and and slowly the '80s were there, so new wave and other stuff started coming in. But as far as a lot of the neighborhood aesthetics and such, that was probably the dominant one.
Was it
Mhm.
was it kind of one of
Yeah,
those
and I know
places?
some about.
Oh, sorry, Connor, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna
You
say,
both are
Benji
too
was
polite to each.
yeah. We both like to talk, so sometimes we interrupt each other. But was that kind of just like one of those type of suburban, or somewhat suburban places where it was like basically a bunch of white kids trying to rebel against their parents, and like that's why they were into metal? Or
Not
I just
not necessarily. Okay, so that's an interesting. So Overly is one of the earlier suburbs. Most of the houses there are from the teens, maybe the 20s, like 19 teens, 1920s. And for my generation, most of our parents were sort of like not necessarily hippies, but of the hippie ilk.
okay,
Like they came out of that style era and that philosophy era. And so they're sort of like trying to take on that guys. Like they weren't good enough to be yuppies, but they
right,
could buy a house,
yeah,
So it
yeah,
was that kind of thing. And so there was still a sense of like abandon. So there was some rebellion or some escapism, I guess, from the different parental house. I know mine was escapism, definitely, but there it was. So I don't think it was intentionally like "screw you, Dad, I'm listening to rock and roll." It wasn't like anything like that. I'm gonna hang out in the sewer and smoke cigarettes. And but we did hang out in the sewer and smoke cigarettes, but
of course, yes,
it wasn't like to show anyone what's for or something like that. It was just that, you know, go out and play. We were still in that era of like you went out and then you came back eventually.
right, right,
And depending on how controlling your parent was, maybe you got yelled at or beaten because you came back too late. So that was the neighborhood, you know?
okay. That makes a lot of sense.
So,
So not rebellion, more like just chaos because we were bred out of confusion and chaos.
Yeah, sounds right.
so to go into the next part of the interview, I think this is perfect. What was your first camera?
So my first camera, I don't even know. I mean, I came into photography totally sideways, but my very first camera was probably like an old, it wasn't like a Brownie, but it was something similar to that I picked up at a flea market when I was like 8 or 9.
So
And
very early on you started.
very early on. But me considering myself a photographer is extremely recent event, like of the digital era. So I had a couple point and shoots, and then I would, take those along in my outings. And then what happened in the past 6 or 7 years, I was doing a lot of regional travel to like natural and historic areas, and I was missing my souvenirs. So I started to like upgrade the game a little bit, and I eventually got a super zoom, like more than a super zoom camera. You know what that is? A super zoom.
Let's hear it though.
So a super zoom, it sort of looks like a professional camera with interchangeable lenses, but it's actually a built-in lens that has
Mm-hmm.
all the zoom capability in and out, and it has a small sensor like you would on a cell phone. So I
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of nature shots on that, and I deliberately avoided taking photographs of people. Like people were in my way. I was trying to get away from people. I wanted to shoot the bird or the scene or the old bridge or the C&O Canal, whatever it was. And then, this was only about a year ago. Friend and sculptor Mark Sanders, whose stuff is up on the Station North billboard right now. Like the Station North billboard's broad his sculptures like as of yesterday.
Yeah. Wow. I'll have to check that out.
So he's like, "Yeah, man, I need new shots for promotional stuff, and I really love what you're doing, and love some of the self photography I was posting of my outfits at the time too."
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, Mark, but I've never actually shot a human being before, like we seriously never had. So like, I go on this first gig with him just to take promo shots, and it ended up working out. And then I started getting some more gigs from there, but it was just totally by accident. I never intended to be hired as a photographer. It just sort of started happening.
Holy shit! And you said this
Yeah,
was
I
like a
think
year
that
ago?
is a common.
This is only about like a year and a couple weeks at this point.
You can see it on your Instagram where you go from shooting nature to shooting like street photography. Basically, that was going to be a question that I was going to ask you
Yeah.
when that took place, but it sounds like it was just a more or less change of coincidence, right? Like you
It was a
wanted to
change of
do.
coincidence and a change of circumstance because my travel was very involved with my ex-girlfriend also, who was
Mhm.
I was dating a lady who did a little better than me, so she sort of facilitated a lot of our trip, things like that. It was fun. It was fun to being in my 40s and a boy toy is kinda fun. Um,
Mhm.
Not I was a boy, but, to be like the young one who gets dinner bought for him or
You
something.
got a sugar mama. Yeah, hell yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
It
I
wasn't
mean,
quite this sugar, but I guess there was some things facilitated that I would not have been able to facilitate on my own, definitely.
Good gig.
But, so when that ended, my access to those spaces kind of ended on a regular basis too, and I was looking for new things, and simultaneously at the same time, me dressing up started really coming in, so I was looking for more social endeavors. So those two, paths sort of crossed. So I was going to different environments to, be seen as well as to sort of exercise these other photographic skills that I still needed to work those muscles out on.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have some good opportunities to. Oh, I mean, so Benji and I met at this street festival in South Baltimore, and I was like, with my little film camera that I had just gotten, I saw this outfit, and I was like, I have to take a fucking picture of this outfit, or I'm going to die. Like, I need to take a successful street photo, and I don't know that I did, but I did take a picture of you wearing a great outfit, and I posted it on my Instagram, and then that's how we sort
oh
of
shit,
come to the
okay.
show.
I don't know why I never
Yeah,
put
the
that together until right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the green
dude.
polka dot little number, yes.
that's
Um,
fucking awesome, man.
so yeah, it's funny. I mean,
Wait a minute, no, I
Baltimore
was
is a small town.
but yeah, that was the, Mount Vernon Pride before the week before Pride
Hmm.
Festival, that was.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, how do you sort through your photos? Like, you go to these events, you shoot 1,000 photos, you shoot 5,000 photos. How do you go through and figure out which ones are even worth editing?
It's sort of a haphazard process, but it is a process. I mean, point by point, usually I'll load my card, like, literally, like, load the card to the computer, and the stuff that's just pure shit, I'll, you know, cut from the card even before I download it on my computer. If it's blurry or if it's just, random.
Your fingers in it, whatever.
and I end up with this big subsorted file of like the first culling, so to speak. And then I'll just start going through. Now, sometimes I'll actually subsort files before I start deleting, but usually nowadays I'm literally just going through I'm like, that one. And I might be choosing between 4 or 5 of a set or something, and then I'll go straight to edit and then put it in an edit version of the photo. So it's literally just driving through all the scenery and picking and choosing at this point has ended up being more efficient than me trying to be efficient. So
Sure. Yeah, I understand what you mean exactly.
Benji, on kind of a
but I mean that's about it.
oh, go ahead. But I do have kind of
No, no,
an interesting question. What do you think on average,
go
like
ahead.
per event, is the amount of photos you take?
I mean, I don't have enough events under my belt, at least the ones I've been paid for, to have, if
Right.
so,
or maybe in just a
if I'm
general
going out,
sense.
if I'm going out for fun to take pictures, I'm only shooting what is terribly interesting to me or what I think might be.
Okay.
I'm looking for those opportunities and moments. So it's actually going to be less if I'm out on a personal endeavor. Um, and maybe like 800 shots if it's a really like active evening or I'm watching someone with a lot of charisma or something like that. For like paid events, these past 2 paid events I did was the Overly Arts Festival a couple weekends ago, and then there was a family reunion I shot, and I worked with this guy before. And that whole weekend was 5,000 shots
Wow.
Oh,
for
holy
those 2
shit!
events that were back to back.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm also trying to capture I'm still trying to get at least the spirit of capturing moments, but there's certain just functional things I wanna make sure I've covered the ground of, even if they're not like something I normally would have taken a photograph of or a person I normally would have taken a photograph of.
Yeah.
So there's just going to be more content there because I'm trying to cover all these various categories as well. So 5,000s was for 2 events, and most of them were for the Arts Fest. But yeah, I think it was about 3,000 shots for the Arts Fest that
It,
I'm still sorting through, and those will be culled down to, when I submit edited stuff to them, it might maybe a couple hundred photographs that they'll
right.
get out of that.
Yeah. So
And
not a crazy
if,
huge
I'm
percentage.
lucky. No, it's not, and I'm working on that. I have a lot less absolute rejection. I do find myself having to make more choices now
Right.
as it goes on, which is a good sign to me, that I have to decide. It's not just like, "That's the one in focus." It's like, that split second or that split second. So there are other, like, more than usable stuff, but it's my first batch is going to be what I think is worthy and conveys what the client is hoping to convey about their event or retain from it. So
Yeah. And you mentioned,
you'll
you
know
got your
more.
first camera pretty early. What did you have any, photography or kind of like artistic inspiration when you were kind of starting out shooting photos, or have you just kind of,
I mean, when I was, like, young or in the recent history?
I mean, I think both. If you were drawn to photography at some point when you were younger, and
So,
then you picked it up
you
later
know,
on again.
as a kid, my mother was, I mean, just in a domestic sense, a pretty good photographer.
Okay.
Like, our family photo albums look really good, like, especially if you compare it to anyone else's. They look really good. She just, like, knew what she was doing. She had, like, a Konica 35 millimeter, and I'm actually surprised she didn't expand out. Well, I'm not knowing her, I'm not, but seeing what skill level she was at just taking pictures of the family and photos of the kids, it's it's a surprise that she didn't go further and probably could have.
Right.
Um, so
As
that was
someone
there, and
whose
then my brother.
albums look awful, I can't even imagine this scenario, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's like, wow, these are like good photos. And my brother, well before I started, taking photos with intention, was taking a lot of photographs also on film, when he was living in New York for some time. This is about 20 years ago or so. He was doing a lot, and shit was really good. So there is something eye-wise in the family, and my mother was also, again, just in a domestic setting, and an artist and an embroiderer and things like that. And my brother also illustrations and things. Um, Nothing you can like look up, but it was in the atmosphere to be creative, or to try to be creative, or there was that drive.
And
And
so
then,
kind of after
later on, it
that,
was just a mean.
yeah, I was going to say after that, you said you picked it up kind of somewhat recently again. What
Yeah,
kind
I
of
like.
inspired that?
So I picked it up like deliberately within the past 7 years, 8 years, maybe, was again just to document the nature stuff, because I was seeing all these fascinating things that I wasn't documenting. So it was literally just for a functional purpose of sorts. And that's what started making me want to capture it better. So it, started with frogs and birds, and I love birds. And I was doing this whole bicycle tour of the C&O Canal, and
The nature photography looks, I mean, not like I've seen 1,000 nature photos, but it looks professional. It looks really like crisp, even like there is an animal and you understand exactly what it looks like.
thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of observation and patience, and and again, I'm a bit of a misanthrope. I really I like, I don't avoid. You know I'm not socially adverse in the same way I once was, or I was for a period, but I definitely feel a certain liberty when I'm out in those environments and I'm observing. I like to see how things interact with each other, and out in those environments, it's all
Yeah.
very obvious, like what affects what and how and why.
That's a pretty
Well,
fascinating
speaking of
perspective.
interaction, yeah. And speaking of interactions and liberty, let's talk about kink modeling, which
Okay,
in your Instagram bio, what does it entail? What does kink modeling entail? What has your
so
journey into the kink community looked like?
that was in. I put that in there. Kink is a problematic term because it brings about certain presumptions that it's like, oh, it's kink. It's something someone does to make themselves sticky, and that it's not necessarily that simple. I think I prefer to think of it in terms of sensuality. So if you're doing something, whether it's an action or wearing a piece of garb or having a certain context within a relationship with someone romantically, that makes you feel more free, then in turn, if you're generally more free, also your libido and arousal systems are more stimulated as well. And it's just ways for people to find uh, their freedom to be themselves. And so we have, different tools and garbs and stuff to go about that. So that's when I say kink, it's an abbreviation for that whole concept to me.
Right.
Yes,
Not
it's very well.
necessarily
It's
just like,
a spectrum in some ways.
yes. So, and for me, I have my own set of interests, and the pandemic hit, and I was literally looking for ways to cash in at that point. So I figured, maybe I can pull this off and get some, I can be, daddy's boy to a few guys online or something. And um, I gave up on that pretty quick because you're competing with a lot more youthful people, and it's something you have to just. It's a being sex worker is work.
Of course.
I can
It's
only
like, man,
imagine.
it is work, and hats off to those that are successful at being, cam girls or boys or whatever that can do that, because it's a it's beyond a full-time job. It's like a full-time thing, man. You are on
your life, it's your entire lifestyle, and then you're like being
like
invaded by all of these people who are messaging you and making demands of you. And it's like, do you have boundaries or do you want to eat?
exactly. And now I wasn't getting to taste that yet. I realized I was not even going to get to taste that. So it was just kind of like, this isn't going to work out. And I'm not sure that this is what I want to dedicate all of my energy to succeed at. And so I kind of stopped with it. So now when I put it up there, it's mainly that, some of the photos of some of my outfits can also be dumped into other genres as well. And I think, I'm a kink friendly model, I guess is more a better way to put it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, I see. I think that that's a worthwhile distinction.
Yeah,
so
you're
I'll
not
probably,
necessarily
yeah,
doing
I
it
might
full
change
time.
that descriptor. Yeah, I'm not getting paid to do it. That's the thing. And I'm not putting out anything at this point that involves, um, you know, nudity or sexual action. That's not what I'm putting out there. So I guess that's the difference.
Yeah, understood. I
Hey,
mean, I think
I
that
love
that's
the
worth.
kinky people. I am the kinky people. Nothing against the kinky people. I just,
Right.
Mhm.
yeah, that's not exactly what I'm doing now. It's just sort of something I did do. And I think when I started that Instagram, I think there was sort of like a coin toss in the pool that if someone also liked my photographs and they'd be, hey, hey, you want to do it? Sure. Why not? Why not? Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But that hasn't really happened. So it's sort of like a little flag out there, like, if you're thinking about it, you can send me a message. But I'm not actively doing it or pursuing it right now.
Also, it seems like
I
being
see.
open with that,
Um,
like, I don't know, it's something about, there's a little bit of solidarity with other marginalized kind of like sexualities and genders and things of that nature. So, having someone that just kind of
There is.
shows that part of themselves without actually, you know, being not seduced, but they just want to show that kind of thing. Like I can imagine that people find that very, very positive.
They do. I think it's disarming. It's disarming to the people you want to disarm around
Yeah,
it. You know
right.
what I mean? So it
Absolutely.
makes you approachable to the folks that you would probably get along with.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
you're putting things on the table about yourself. And, a lot of my wardrobe is about that too. I'm putting a lot of things on the table about myself confidently. And that message does get across to other folks. And I get approached by a lot of people. I get a lot of messages about, you're really inspired me, or I'm love that you're sharing this. And, thank you for doing that. I mean, even just walking down the street, like I get compliments every day. I literally stop traffic on a fairly regular basis. I'll have people pull their cars over, and not in like a lascivious, like, hey, baby. It's not like that. But, like, people literally stop their cars and, like, "You made me really happy today." I, like, verbatim, like, some guy, what was the other week, just, like, pulled over, he's like, "Man, you just made me really happy today. I wanted to tell you." And, like, it's fucking touching, it's powerful, and,
Oh, absolutely.
so, yeah, putting all of that out on the table and dressing the way I dress, it opens you up to people, and I think it lets people open up to themselves and just be I don't know, it's really opened up communications. I was expecting a bit more pushback,
Right.
but it's much more, the opposite effect. I have way more access to people, since I've been, dressing cute or playfully or feminine, than I ever did. I have, like, so much more access just to conversations with people or engaging with them, and that's online and in person than I have in my entire life. It's really strange, but it's that's the effect that it's had.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a good feeling,
Again, I
I'm
mean, that
sure.
is how we met.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, if I was wearing my normal like gray shorts and white shorts, and would we have probably had the conversation we
No, I
wouldn't.
wouldn't have taken a picture of you at all.
Yeah.
You
And,
know, I might have talked to you like, oh, hey, other photographer, like, what are you doing? Like, what have you seen here? Have you seen anything good?
Exactly. It would have been about that, and then have a nice day. And maybe we would have seen maybe we would have seen each other on the Instagram, but maybe not. And
yeah.
And yeah, but it's giving me opportunities to engage with people, and then it gives people opportunities to engage with me. Like I guess I feel very approachable because people approach me all the time. It's yeah.
Yes, I mean, I saw the beret and I was like, I've got to talk to this person. Do you know how many you have?
Let's see. Let's see now. Let's take a count. We got the purple, we got the yellow, we got the white, we got the navy blue, we have the pink, and there's one more. Oh yeah, there's the light blue.
That's the one you were wearing when we met.
Was light blue?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, yeah.
With a light blue dress and a light blue beret.
And those are sort of these, Kangol hats, that brand of hat.
I was going to ask what brand they were and what they were made out of.
They're like a knockoff of the Kangol mesh hat.
Okay.
Like it's that type of material. So it's like a very light summery one. And those, I don't even know the brand. It's like Joy for You Now or something like
yeah, exactly.
Your joy. Happiness plus. But something like that. Then I have a couple heavier weight ones for autumn, and I would like to pick up a couple more, so I have some color options. But so I think altogether somewhere about 12 or 13 that I actually wear, and then probably a few more that I don't. Yeah, there's quite a few berets. I've always loved hats since I was a kid. Hats have always been a thing, and then I settled on the beret a few years ago as sort of like the thing. The universal solvent of all hats is the beret.
Do you have a favorite? Like that's one that you've replaced a lot of times?
So I have these berets I'm wearing now, these colorful ones. Oh, I also have those in gray. So they're and that's where these started actually when I was still wearing, boy clothes more regularly, is that I had those gray ones. I don't know. I'm really fond of this purple one. It seems to go with a lot as far as color wise. My favorite one
color.
It's the strength.
It's a regal color. It is the color of kings.
It is the color of kings. The color of kings. That's a new movie coming out with Paul Newman's ghost. They're gonna CGI him. The color of kings. It's gonna be the third part of The Color of Money. Coming soon. The Color of Kings. He was dead, but he played pool. So there's a heavier knit gray one that I'm very fond of the fit and weight and hand of it, and that's sort of probably my favorite as far as the way it hangs and everything. But it's definitely not my favorite color one to wear. So that's what I'm trying. I'm very particular about all my shit. Like it has to sit and hang in a certain way before I'm happy about it.
Absolutely. I feel like
that's why you're on the show.
Yeah,
that's why I'm on the show.
Yeah.
I forgot we're talking about photography. Same whole category,
You're not just going to Target to buy whatever is cool or whatever you think looks half decent, or on the other side of things.
I have gotten some things from Target.
Oh,
but,
certainly.
Yeah.
But they have to meet the right point with you and how you want it to.
If I'm going to do this, like, if I'm going to go walk the streets dressed like a little girl, it better be good. Like, you can't do that half-assed.
Absolutely.
You can. You're not going to get the reaction you want. It's got to be good. You got to put it together. And that's not that admonish someone who can't afford certain things or whatnot, but it's just if you're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to figure out your aesthetic, essentially.
Yes. And different things are gonna work for everybody else, and it might not be the thing you thought it would be.
Right.
You know, you might have to arrive at something. So
how did you arrive at kind of the vibe that you have been playing with for the past little while?
So I'm still arriving at
Okay.
it. I'm
Yeah, of
still
course.
figuring there's a lot of misfires. And but it started much more just sort of like playful, like definitely still more boyish kind
Okay.
of stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, like short alls and a little like stripy shirt or something and a pair of fish head sneakers and sort of at least like publicly, I would have some more like girly stuff for like private. But then as I started doing the public dressing, I started getting, braver also. And I originally sort of like that more kind of like, childish, playfulish kind of look
Right.
and for myself. But then I also very attracted to that sort of 40s, 50s aesthetic in women's clothes. And then that sort of morphs into that kawaii fashion. And I'm trying to add a dash of, you got to be careful about when you use this word because they're a savage little bunch. And I warn you, the Lolitas, the Lolita fashion movement.
Yes.
So I like elements of them, but man, you do not want to tag anything Lolita unless it's purely Lolita.
Oh, I can imagine.
If it goes,
Oh my god!
oh man, no, they'll. I'm serious. They will come after you. They're like angry little people. The Lolitas.
Dude.
There's exceptions. There is a resistance movement within them, but there's a lot of self-appointed gatekeepers to what Lolita is and what Lolita is not. And if you at all try to mention it in conjunction with other styles or aesthetics, they'll bring the hammer down.
Oh wow.
They're nuts.
This sounds like you're
so
speaking from
serious.
experience.
Oh yeah, I've had them like attack accounts and try to get like things shut down and shit before because I like tagged something Lolita that wasn't to their vision of it.
Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, serious. And this has happened to plenty of other people too.
So it's like a Lolita
it's
mafia.
like a weird. Yeah, it's a weird savage little thing. Now there's going to be a Lolita maybe that hears this and hears that, and you're going to get some shit.
I don't know about that, man.
I apologize to any Lolitas that come across this. I'm not talking shit. Just fascinated.
I'm just expressing my opinion as a guest. This is not the views necessarily the views of our hosts. So
this is a neutral Lolita show.
Yes, yes.
So I have heard a few different voices, and I know that you do voice work professionally. So I was curious how long you have been at it, and most importantly, how long have you known that you had a marketable voice?
So I'm still trying to figure out if I have a marketable voice because I get a lot of work outside of my regular client, which is this works mainly for financial insurance companies.
Okay.
But I have always wanted to do it, like since very early on. I think since I was like a teenager or something. And it was something I kept putting off for years and years. And it's like, oh, you need to make a demo. Well, I don't know how to make a demo. Where do you go? And so I just didn't get around to it. And I did a couple projects. I was the facilities manager at Port Discovery for like 13 years.
Oh boy.
Place. Yeah. I left there in 2019, but I did a few projects with them, and I think those are my first actual recordings I did for something outside of like a performance art thing or a play thing. I just did a voice recording that was to be used in an exhibit or some type of engagement. There was like a telephone that rang, and the kids would pick up the phone, and it would be like, "Welcome to Tiny's Diner. How may I help you?" And this whole thing, I want a piece of pie. It's gonna be my birthday, and that whole bit. So that was actually the first work I did. I think that might still exist, the diner phone. But
oh my God. So you were, hang on a second. Port Discovery is an enormous children's museum in downtown Baltimore, and it has all manner of interactive displays. So your voice is on one of the exhibits at the museum?
Yeah, if it still exists. I don't know if they
Dude,
still have the diner
that's
up and running
crazy.
or not. So, because I haven't been there for 3 years, but yeah. Yeah, my voice is on.
Wow, yeah, that's really funny. And that's like cool work, cool voice work to be doing, you know? It's not like corporate. It's like to entertain people, specifically children.
It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. And one of the other employees wrote that script at that time. And then I think I'm on their kiosk for their there's a touring exhibit they had also for a while, which is like the farm exhibit or the harvest I can't remember exactly what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on a kiosk for that about like harvest songs throughout the world.
Sure.
And
That's pretty funny. A
as the
diverse
women join
portfolio.
hands, listen to the rhythm. Gang gang Sule. And yeah, it's just that. And I guess that was my official start. And then mainly I do like voiceovers for financial insurance industry, like blog posts and promo videos, which is like agent to agent stuff. This is not like direct to the public. It's like, do you have the insurance that pays while you're still alive? That kind of Trust Financial Group is a trust, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I do some of that stuff. And I do some voiceover. I have one social media client, and I do occasionally do voiceovers for their Instagram posts as well. And that is Threaded Armor. So yeah, I run the social media account for an adult diaper company named Threaded Armor. So
Wow.
I am the voice of Threaded Armor.
Threaded Armor, man.
Dude,
Armor.
I was gonna say, Benji, your
Look 'em up. They
voice,
don't get shit.
like you kind of remind me of J.K. Simmons, who I absolutely love. So that's who kind of
Oh
like
man.
comes to
Yeah, a
mind.
little bit.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
I think
That's
he's
like
more
a huge
Midwestern,
compliment.
but
Yeah.
That is just,
He's a bit more Midwestern when he has his Frank. That's the first time he has a bit of that thing in there. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
I
man.
don't know. I don't know. That's
I
what came to
always
mind
thought,
immediately.
wow. I love that. Yeah, I don't quite hear it, but I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. I always thought he should have played the comedian in Watchmen.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. That would have been a great casting.
Yeah.
That guy's great. Wow, thank you. That's a compliment.
Of course,
I'll
yeah.
take it.
I don't know why. I feel like he's one of those mostly just sideline characters and things, but I always just find him hilarious no matter what context he's in. And I don't know.
Yeah, he's really good. He started off as a character actor, but he's kind of coming to his own. He's definitely done some lead now at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's what's that movie Extract? It's a
Oh
Mike
God,
Judge film.
with Jason Bateman and Mila Kunis. Yeah.
Yes.
Such
He's
a
so
good
good
flick.
in that. What is that? He's calling everybody. He keeps calling not Pinhead. He keeps Doofus or I don't know. There's some catchphrase he has in that film. Movie right now.
Doofus would sound good in his voice.
Yeah.
Doofus or something like that. I don't remember, but yeah, I love the J.K. Simmons. I've lost now. We were on voice. We were on How Did I Know?
I was going to ask you, because you said in a call before this interview that you watched a lot of advertisements on television when you were a kid. I was going to ask you if any of those have kind of stuck around in your brain and have influenced your voiceover work now.
I don't think there's like a specific one I could cite, but I think that era, that sort of like late 70s, early 80s is towards the end of the classic broadcaster era, where you'd hear a man's voice on the radio. That whole thing. I always thought that was so powerful, and I just loved hearing it. And it's fading now. You don't really hear that. And the news time is 4:49 p.m. Like, you don't hear that too much anymore. And I think there was, but yes, that did get in my brain. There was some sort of authority and regard. There was something powerful about hearing that to me, and you paid attention to it, or it was something important, you know? It's like
authoritative.
a commercial for like an ambulance chaser was somehow important. It's like, your child's brain damage may be caused by cerebral palsy. Oh, you're right. It might be. You're correct. And you'd pay attention to it still. And I don't know, it did set about something, and that is what I'm going for. I want to be as good as those guys were, or convey that same thing, because there's a rhythm to it, there's cadence, there's all these lovely little bits and pieces to that, presenting it that way, which I think we've lost. And I think I was discussing this other aspect with you earlier, where it's sort of popular as like the dickhead, like dickhead pitchman, like the Ryan Reynolds type or something. Like,
Yes.
you see this guy is better than you. What? Whatever. Like, it's just like, and it's just like, huh? Oh, you're still using ice? That's shit. Ice doesn't keep your drink cold.
Why do you think it is that way? Why do you think the annoying voices have won out? Because that's what it is, I think, in maybe half of advertisements. There are extremely annoying people.
It's okay. I don't know exactly why it is, but I think I can pinpoint when it is and how it developed.
Sure.
So here's the inherent problem. The inherent problem in moviedism. Do you have moviedism? You should get it looked at. There's in moviedom and sitcoms and such, is instead of really fleshing out characters, it's not the event and what is occurring that is funny anymore. They try to make every character snarky and funny. Like every character
Yeah, exactly. Every character has like a sarcastic affect.
And like Marvel Universe currently is just awful with it. Like every character is just like a comedic fucking genius, and it's like, this is not interesting to me.
Right.
And it's just not. And if you look at the remake of Ghostbusters, the all-female cast of Ghostbusters, they did the same thing. Like the original Ghostbusters, there's a few jokes in there here and there. There's a few intentionally funny lines, but for the most part, it's the interaction and it's the context and it's the faces. The characters themselves are not trying to be funny for the most part. The new one, that's all it is. Every character's trying to one up the other with how funny they are, and it's not funny. I didn't laugh once during that whole movie. And there's actually, if you know, look on YouTube, there's a guy does movie reviews called Mr. Plinkett, Red Letter Media.
I know, yeah.
Okay, he does one on the new Ghostbusters. You got to watch it. That will explain everything I'm talking about. But I think you can trace all of this all the way back, and I think this is the source, is Joss Whedon and Buffy. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I do. I'm a fan, and and especially I like Angel too. But I think he did it right, and he had a certain balance with it, and there was a certain feel to it that somehow worked. But that became, because of its success and because of it, it lingered around for years and years. It became kind of a cult show. And he became a more powerful director and better known as well. And I think that became a template and a formula that everyone started following, and then they kept compounding it. And not only is it popular, they forced that into popularity, is that's sort of what the viewer wants. The viewer thinks now that, oh, well, what I want is to be the snarkiest, and I want to be the funniest in the room, and I want the attention that way. So kind of like I was influenced by the deep radio guy who was sincere and told you this important thing, this important message. Like I desired that effect, and it was the effect I was surrounded by. now are surrounded by dicks getting away with everything. I'm a dick and I get away with everything. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm a dick and get away with everything. So it's enforcing its own popularity. That's my theory at this point, is that everybody, I guess, wants to be a dick. I don't know. So we're looking up to them at this point. Maybe it's going to fade. I don't know what the next big thing is going to be. I have no guess.
I think the dicks are here to stay.
The dicks are here to stay. I don't know, man. This young generation's throwing curveballs left and right. You never know what to come up with next. You can't
Right.
You might just cut the dick off. And
right. Maybe so. A Shirley Bobbitt situation. A national.
Yeah, Bobbitt, the whole thing. Boom.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's going to change forever.
No offense to him, but I can't take Ron Reynolds for that much longer. He seems like a cool dude enough, but the one character and everything, which, like you said, has translated into literally every production, is just overwhelming.
Yeah. And he's always the same thing. Not that look, the guy's a professional. That's a lot of work what he does. I'm not shitting on his
he's good at being
endurance
that one
and his
dick.
But God, it's annoying. And also, I have to say, I'm biased now because I got Mint Mobile. I switched to them back in May, and they just they hurt me. They hurt me bad, and it was this whole rigmarole. Mint Mobile is the cell phone company he partly owns and advertises.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, there's the connection. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah. It's Mint. I renamed it Excrement Mobile.
Nice.
Yeah, solid.
Excrement Mobile. It's shit. But at any rate, I'm at the point I feel I had to switch over from them to another company at this point because just shit just stopped working and I had bought like a year's worth of service. So Ryan Reynolds owes me $200. So Ryan, if you feel I want my $200, Ryan Reynolds.
Well, we'll try to let him know.
Yeah, I hope we can facilitate this.
Facilitate, yes, that would be great. But so there's a little further bias now, and I have to acknowledge my bias. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to do there. I acknowledge that I'm slightly biased now because now I have this, personal thing going on with me and Ryan that we need to resolve, and it's coming out. But I acknowledge it. I see it. I can admit it.
You acknowledge. You can go forward.
And that's what makes me a being. Exactly. It is about
growth.
We're
all stronger for it.
Yes.
Yes. So, Matt, if you have any questions to ask,
man, this has been fascinating. And Benji, thank you for taking the time to chat. And it's been hella fun. And I very much enjoyed listening to your various voices.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for coming, Benji. If you have something that you want to plug away.
Yes.
I don't have anything specific. Plug if you need professional photography, if you need graphic design, I'm going to work with you at mediaservicestudio.com. mediaservicestudio.com. So that's my website, sort of my talent portfolio out there. I do graphics, I do photography for events or personal photography, boudoir photography. I do voiceover. We know that now, don't we? And if
yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do it.
Hell
yeah. mediaservicestudio.com. That's me. So that's what I'm plugging, I guess. Thank you for the plug opportunity.
Of course.
I need a better
person. Thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Is this how we're wrapping up? How do you close your show?
I'm Matt Smith at Rebels Rogues on Instagram. Give our other episodes a listen at Apocalypse Duds on Instagram. And if you want to reach out, apocalypseduds@gmail.com.
And I'm Connor Fowler at Connor Fowler. Matt has given all the other contact information for the show, so please don't be a stranger. We are very responsive. Thank you, and have a nice day.